in this lesson, we'll get our low-res base geometry from Maya into Mudbox so that we can begin doing some shaping. So depending on the software application that you're using, you can get this out in many different ways. If you're using Maya, 3ds Max, or Softimage, you've got a very easy send to feature that you can just send it over to Mudbox. If you're using another application, that's perfectly fine. Just export that as an OBJ and bring it into Mudbox that way. Since we are using Maya, we'll go ahead and just use this Send to Mudbox feature under File. Let's go ahead and send this as a new scene. So we've got that selected. We'll send as new scene. And so then if we jump over into Mudbox here, you can see that that's been loaded up. And one thing I do want to change is if I rotate around, you can see that's actually using this imported perspective camera. And I want to go back to the Mudbox perspective camera. So I'm going to go ahead and say look through in that perspective, and I'm just going to delete that camera. We can also rename this just to keep track of it. So just call this something like head. All right, I'm going to actually also turn off the grid, and then I'm going to subdivide this one time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get my smooth tool, and with symmetry on, so you can see I've selected symmetry in the X here. Can see those temporary planes, they give you an indication here. And I'm going to scale the size of the brush up a little bit. I'm just going to start smoothing this out. Okay, so I can come in here and just kind of round off the head. There's sort of the back of the head. Okay, haven't really done any sort of shaping yet. I'm just kind of smoothing out those corners because we did have those very kind of sharp corners there from making that, creating that cube. So just kind of start to round things off a bit. We can smooth out the area for the nose as well. All right, now at this point we can start to use grab. We can start to do some shaping here. So let's dial our brush size down a little bit. We can use shift to smooth. So if we want to smooth in the front of those ears and kind of add a little bit of shape to those. If we want to get kind of a larger brush size, come to the back here, start to work the back of that head out. Okay. Come in at the top and kind of shape that. Really start to come in here, and we can then smooth that out a little bit. Okay. And get kind of a larger brush and really emphasize that neck coming out. We want it to have a lot of thickness and mass, so we'll kind of bring that out the back too. All right. Kind of make sure to get that out to the side there. Get a really thick neck going on. A lot of mass there. Okay, start to bring out the chin and jaw. So I'm going to start to bring that out. Okay, and that's going to come out kind of to the side. Want him to have kind of a wide chin, a really wide jaw. Just kind of bring that whole front area of the face forward. All right. It's still going to look a little bit strange for a while, but doing it here in Mudbox, I find a little bit nicer than trying to shape it in Maya. Now, if you've something that you like to do it there, then that's perfectly fine. But I find it'll be a little bit more fun to kind of do in here. Now, even now we're starting to keep those proportions that we want for this caricature. Remember, we're exaggerating things. So I'm going to use the loops here as a guide for kind of the eyes. And so we can start to think about how those are going to be shaped. Okay, go kind of widen up the nose there. Kind of bring that nose out, bring the front of it out a little bit. Kind of start to widen that up. Okay, now the brows we want to start to shape, and again, just using grab, we can start to build that in a little bit more. Okay, up here where we've got these areas, we can kind of smooth these things out. Okay, you can see my head's kind of odd there at the back, so I want to just make sure and bring the back of that head down a little bit. So we still get the head, and then that's kind of the base of the head there. Again, just being fairly rough with it as far as the shaping goes. We can take the ears and actually make that a little bit bigger. Just start to do a little bit of shaping there. Again, I have only subdivided this once, so I'm doing a lot of this work here at the first subdivision level. Start to push the eyes in just a little bit. And even now we can start to get those Stallone sort of eyes going in where they're sort of angled downward. Can start to build that in a little bit. Now if you want to get sculpt and kind of push areas in, get a smaller brush here, we can start to push those areas in. You can use M to increase or decrease your brush strength there. All right, we can overall shape this overall. I think the top of the head needs to be kind of made a bit smaller. So we'll go ahead and do that. Just making sure to make that jaw a bit bigger. We could even start now to define the lips a little bit more, the mouth. So we can start to bring out maybe where we're going to actually have those lips. Now at this point we can still keep ourselves fairly symmetrical, even if we're going to be adding a lot of asymmetry at the end. We can still stay fairly symmetrical at this point until we get to that point. All right, we'll kind of widen this out a little bit. We can smooth it down a little. Right, so it's still very rough, but it is a big departure from that initial geometry that we started with. We can come in and kind of emphasize that a little bit more and bring that face out a bit more. I want to actually make the head a bit taller. We're going to have the hair and the bandana on there. I want to give him a little bit more of a forehead. So we'll just kind of do a little bit of shaping that way. Bring in the sides there a little bit. Come in the back and kind of smooth that out a little bit and shape it a little bit more. All right. So once we've got some overall shape going for this mesh, the next thing that we can start to do is to actually sculpt in some of the rough shapes that we want to actually include in our mesh. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start to do that in the next lesson.